Hi everyone, it's me again, and today we're going to do a little kind of get ready with me style video where I talk about, a new topic, because I have a Casper exam and an interview for grad school, and I'm a little bit unhinged. Yes, it's 3 p.m., and yes, this has 4 shots of espresso in it. With my sheer panic, I thought what better topic would there be in this whole world than the Ace family, because not only are they a trending topic, and not only is there some spicy drama in the works, I think I have a little bit of a unique perspective on what's been going on with them that I haven't really seen anybody point out, and I kind of want to get into that. So I apologize if I sound unhinged. So right out the gate, I want to say the Ace family, as we know, are not new to any form of controversy, right? We've been new. They have been an absolute treat for the drama commentary community for quite some time, given their antics involving like alleged scamming, issues with child exploitation in media, issues with just Austin's existence for the most part. And they've been making waves in these communities since, I would say, about, I think, is it 2018 or 2019, where they had that charity basketball game. So one thing I see very few people mention is, why do they get away with so much stuff? And what makes them this kind of untouchable force? What about them got them to this fame that they've reached up until this point? So before we get to that, obviously there's issues with the fact that they're a family channel in the first place. We knew that, right? There's so many other channels that talk about that. Smokey Glow's talked about it a lot. I believe Ready to Glare's also talked about it. There's the really good Jay Aubrey video about it, where he goes into like really good detail about all of their, I guess it would be a little bit outdated now because it came out, I want to say last year. But even the new issues with the house and everything, there's an H3 podcast. There's a stream on it. I think it's 4 hours long. There's other drama videos as well. I think Adam McIntyre naturally has like 10 videos on it, because that guy's just a content house by himself. The Ace family, right? They're a special treat because they obviously are profiting off of the fact they have this family, hence obviously Ace family, which was named Austin, Catherine, and Elle, which now they have, I believe, 2 other kids, despite the fact that their name is still the Ace family, which I love that for them. So I don't want to talk about necessarily just the issues that pertain to these channels that have children in them, because I feel like that point's been made time and time again. The kids can't consent to the work. You could tell by, there's a video clip of when Catherine left it in by accident in editing, or whoever edited it.
On camera day.
Okay.
God.
Okay.
My hair looks fucked up. I would not film like this. So just go.
Okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Hey, Ace family! Welcome back to our channel, guys.
What's going on?
Where Austin's like cussing about his hair, and then Elle is like trained on command when to like act for the camera, right? And then she's obviously very young. She's only 3-4 years old, I believe. And from there, you could tell there's some sort of kind of dynamic issue there, because that doesn't make sense, right? That you would have a trained toddler to work for you. So that calls into question a lot of things. Obviously, how much the kid's working, and where their relationship ends with their family, and where the camera begins. We're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the fact that there's a reason why they were able to acquire this fame in the first place. And I believe that the Ace family is a modern embodiment of the American dream phenomenon. And I have 3 sections of the video related to this. So we're going to get right into that. So my 3 sections are the very Americanized origin of Austin. And, so Catherine is Canadian of descent. She's from Montreal, Quebec. I'm Quebecois too. One thing I have realized in my internet sleuthing time is Canada's got like its whole own breed of menaces. Like, y'all don't realize sometimes we are the owner. Like, we gave you J Station. We gave y'all J Station. You're welcome. And who else? Stephen Crowder, gem of our lifetime. He's Canadian. Jordan Peterson teaches at the University of Toronto. One of the most established institutions in the country. University of Toronto is like Canadian Stanford. Like, it's a very it's hard to get in, and it's a very well-established institution. And Jordan Peterson is a teacher there, so we have him too. We love that. Anyway, so Catherine's Canadian, but in the grand scheme of YouTube and celebrities, internet celebrities and stuff, Canadians and Americans are kind of indistinguishable in that regard. Whoops. Like, there's so many YouTubers that people don't even realize are Canadian because it's so similar of a lifestyle, similar, opinions and attributes to American YouTubers. So, when I say that they're the American dream, disregard the fact that Catherine is Canadian because it doesn't really make a big difference in the scheme of my argumentation here. The three parts, like I was trying to say, are the origin of a successful athlete and a beautiful woman, right? What better couple in the grand scheme of success than an athlete and a model? Like a star basketball player in university and a young model. And my second part is the idea of the young couple with the baby and how they start their life together, which is something that we've lost a lot of in modern society, mostly because people can't afford to have kids in their 20s anymore. It's just like not even feasible for most people in the modern day. They're kind of a symbolization of that lost aspect of society. They represent they have a nuclear family, right? The average two parents, two cis parents, and 2.3 children. Which obviously, like, 2.3 is more than 2, so it's probably 3, right? So they have, like, that exact alignment of that nuclear family that people will kind of attribute to that American dream. And with that, they also have the till death do us part idea. Because a lot of what they say in their videos and their Snapchat stories and all these kinds of things is it's them against the haters.
Guys, like, literally, like, you guys see this fake shit, or you see things that are taken out of context, and you guys just sit there and you're like, fuck, when is Catherine Austin gonna say something about this? Like, I know it's not true, like, speak up. And honestly, I'm gonna tell you the truth. The truth is that there's been a lot of damage that's been caused to us in our relationship because of the fake shit and the false shit. And if you think about it, if you really pay attention, it's one or two outlets every time. It's the only two, there's no other outlets.
This is particularly prevalent when Austin allegedly stole the bandana idea from that young man who was an artist. This was a couple of years ago. This scandal is in Jay Aubrey's video as well, as most that I'll reflect on are. So let's get right into it. Part 1. Origin. So Austin McBroom played basketball at Central Michigan University, St. Louis, and Eastern Washington. He was a point guard at a staggering 5'9". Also, I want to say I call them universities, not colleges, because in Canada there's a difference, and where Austin McBroom played in standards of Canadian education systems were universities. Colleges in Canada are like community college, which he wasn't at a community college. Those are universities. So I don't use them interchangeably like many American people do. Anyway, so he played basketball. He was apparently very good. He has very good statistics. You can still look them up. There's like pro statistics for him as well. Like he potentially would have had a very successful basketball career if he didn't end up going into a YouTube career, which I wonder which one of them arguably would have actually been more profitable. I guess maybe the YouTube career because of how many subscribers they ended up getting. But at the same time, how they managed that, wonder how much issues there would have been if he played basketball instead. And then Catherine Piaz, I'm going to assume that's how you pronounce that, was born in Montreal, Quebec. She was allegedly adopted, but I don't want to confirm that nor deny that because that's not my business. I did a Google search, but there's a lot of back and forth about that one. So anyways, she was born and raised in Montreal, Quebec, and around Canada. She was an actress and a model. Very famously dated Michael B. Jordan. And then Austin McBroom. So we really, really love the downgrade of a millennia. Because my God, are you serious? You went from like the evil villain in Black Panther to like the guy that goes, Ace family! Ace family! My dog is actually named Ace Family. That's how they say it. Point is, girl, you really, like... I mean, maybe they deserved each other. The nuclear family, if we could recall that ideology, often presented two beautiful young people and their beautiful, young, happy children in a, upper middle class home with a dog and a television set and all those kinds of nice things. With social media fame kind of comes this idea that anyone can amount to some sort of substantial fame if they just work hard enough at it, right? You can have anything you want as long as you can dream hard enough. And the Ace family are not ones that deny this claim by any means. Especially a lot of these these people with young audiences will not deny those claims. Think like Jake Paul tried to make a whole website on the fact that he was famous and he could teach kids to be social media famous, and that trying to convince the parents that was like a better idea than like college tuition. Okay. College is not for everyone, to be fair. But I do think Jake Paul's program and like a university degree are not interchangeable things. So recall the idea of the nuclear family with the young family, 2.3 kids, all that kind of stuff. So they represented that right from the gate, right? Because they very quickly did Catherine get pregnant. They kind of created this modern rendition of the nuclear family, which many people did, with the aspect of like the family vlogging, right? Because the family vlogging channels brought forward this idea that you could have almost like your family home videos in a way to like share experiences for other people. And a lot of people might be finding a way to relate to these experiences given the fact that they themselves never had, let's say, the amount of money to have experiences like this. They had difficult relationships with their parents, or maybe people who couldn't have kids. There's a really wide range of potential audience that comes with these family vlogging channels, because the idea of a family, particularly the style of family that the Ace family are, is something that has been put upon people for decades at this point. But let's get into part 2, which is the young family. Coming towards this idea of the nuclear family, we have to think of something, right? So while arguably the Ace family's lifestyle is not one that is achievable, like one that is granted to be achievable, given the fact that they're social media famous and the way that people are able to angle the idea of social media fame, given that so many people have had, quote unquote rags to riches stories as a result of social media, they're able to kind of make a relatability out of this immense luxury. So they kind of have found the perfect balance of like, you need to envy us, but also we could teach you how to be us. It's very interesting because, in a late-stage capitalist society, that is something that so many people are yearning for, right? To have that, you don't need to worry about money, ideal lifestyle, right? So the fact that they're a young family already is kind of coming into that claim because, like I mentioned before, so many people are not able to afford to have kids, like at the ages that they were, right? Because they were in their early to mid-20s when they started having their family. I'm in my early 20s right now, and let me tell you, I cannot afford to have kids. No siree, Bob, not even close. It's not even kind of a question if I could afford to have a kid right now. Maybe people in my in my age group that would want to have kids would kind of try to live vicariously through them in the idea that maybe it is possible for them. Maybe they have that capacity in them somewhere, and it just takes an opportunity to seize to be able to get there. And perhaps maybe that's true for some. That's definitely not true for as many as they imply that it could be, which I think many people who aren't like young kids in their fan base realistically understand that. But given that they have attracted such a young fan base, are kind of putting forward an idea that's not realistic. And a lot of older people will kind of point out that the nuclear family is dying because of this fact that a lot of people cannot afford to have kids at young ages anymore. And what's interesting with the Ace family as well is this nuclear family is not often seen outside of religious spaces anymore, right? Like young professionals in the modern day tend to live their professional lives quite a bit longer before they decide to have children. Like they're not going to immediately start their career and then immediately move on to having children. There tends to be a bit more of a waiting time now, with many people having kids in their, early to mid 30s rather than their early to mid 20s. You know, let's say, when my parents were kids, it was very common to have, 20-year-old parents, 21-year-old parents. But now that's where most people are starting their lives, right? Many getting their degrees around that age. They've presented this idea of type of family that is desirable for many outside of a religious basis, outside of a super inaccessible idea. Because imagine if Austin McBroom got all this money from being like a basketball player. Like if he was a basketball player trying to sell this idea, they would not work the same. Because the whole point that makes a big part of the appeal is he got through a type of job that in theory, most people can do. If you have a phone, probably a computer would be a good idea. You can succeed in some sort of social media fame. That, of course, under the condition that you either find a niche or you get very lucky, though, which is something that many people are ignoring. But it is favorable of them to ignore. Quick little side note. I'm sorry to the people that are used to my more exciting makeup. I can't look too crazy trying to do this interview later. So I gotta keep it very subtle. And even though it's not quite true, they do have somewhat of a rags to riches story themselves. And while they had their own pseudo rags to riches story themselves, given that Austin was a college basketball player and Catherine was a model, this seems kind of contradictory to what I'm saying, but you have to remember that, like, Austin McBroom's dad wasn't a celebrity or something. It's not like a, super affluent, like Lori Loughlin's daughter, for example, or something like that. Like, he did come from what seems to be a normal family. Well, I guess you can't say for 100% sure because of all the things they've been hiding, but... Now to part 3, the against the haters. So one big thing that's been missing for a lot of people in modern day, perhaps, is the idea of the till death do us part. You see all those, like, cringy Facebook posts of, like, people being really sad that, like, people just aren't loyal anymore. All people want to do is, like, hook up. There's no dating culture anymore. I miss the 50s when men would open car doors for women or whatever. Which I like to say a lot of that stems from, like, people not wanting to take shit the same way they used to, but there have been types of allegations against them. There have been so many. There have been allegations of fraud due to the basketball game and the scams as well. There's that famous Snapchat story where I guess the Ace family had developed an app, right? And then the app didn't end up working out. And then it's just Austin McBroom. It's just Austin McBroom being like, hey guys, you got scammed by the developers. It wasn't like us not looking into anything that resulted in you getting scammed. But he
claims he refunded everybody for that first failed venture into mentorship, I guess.
Here's him talking about the Ace Club, another scam he ran.
You guys have asked what has happened with the Ace Club when we were doing exclusive content with the Ace Club. And unfortunately, the people that we partnered with in that adventure,
somehow these ventures,
I don't really like to
go ahead. You could say it
negatively, but
of course
they just weren't good partners.
No. Why'd you partner with them? He's like, damn, it's just somehow whenever I partner with someone or do any kind of venture, you guys just lose your money and get nothing. It's just such a crazy coincidence, bro.
Idiot. Unfortunately scamming us.
He's the one that got scammed.
And it kind of like hurt us in a way because in reality, like, you guys got scammed.
Your fans, your audience that trusts you.
That was so funny. That clip, like, circulates a lot because it is quite ironic and quite hilarious that they take so little responsibility for anything that, Austin McBroom says that they got scammed by the developer, and not the fact that the business owners and the people who are supposed to pay attention to things are the people who haven't looked into a single aspect of that whole ordeal. That's like if you manufactured, let's say, like, the Ace family started to design a toy line, and then they had a toy that just exploded or something like that. And then, or like a super defective toy that, like, injured kids. But they knew going in that the manufacturer that they had hired worked way, way, way under regular cost. Like, it was suspiciously lower than all of the other ones. They don't even question that idea. They just put it on people. But then it will be the toy manufacturer's fault that this happened to them, despite the fact that they knew that the toy manufacturer had problems and they're the face of the brand. That's kind of the Ace family model, is to try to cut costs in any sort of way to maximize their revenue. And then when it blows up in their faces, it becomes the fault of everyone around them. Because there's also the alleged infidelity on Austin McBroom's behalf. I don't really know what else to claim about that, because the people that allege this are not necessarily dependable sources themselves, right? Because it was Cole Kerrigan for a bit. Well, he alleged SA, mind you. But I think he also mentioned infidelity, but I think that video might not even be up anymore. But then there's also, like, famously Tana and Jake have been really big into claiming that Austin McBroom cheats on Catherine, like, literally all the time. So there are some, like, it is talked about. I don't really know to what extent that is deemed viable, but I know that that is in fact a thing. From there, though, this kind of brand that they've built together, which is like, don't fall victim to the haters. It is all the fault of the haters. We have done nothing wrong, and everything has just been inflicted on us time and time again. This became extremely prevalent, and what's interesting is the tables turned towards Catherine being the one to project during this new scandal of their house being foreclosed on. Which again is interesting, because I know a big part of the nuclear family too was the stable family element, and a big part of stability, unfortunately, is being economically sound. And they will literally do anything to not sound like they even could potentially be poor. Like that's such a huge part of, like, their ideologies. Like, we're not poor. There's no way that we can even be, like, a suggestion that we're poor.
For sure. Like, another thing too is, like, I have to say this, is like, if it was true that we weren't paying our bills, okay, this is like the narrative people want to give it. If it was true that we didn't pay our bills, why the freak would I spend $40,000-$50,000 on, like, my gardening and get all this gardening done just a couple months ago and literally show it to you guys on our channel? Like, why would we do it on time? Like, if you know me, you know that I pay my fucking bills. Like, for people to say,
How can we trust?
For people to say that we don't pay our bills and that we're going broke, it's so crazy, because one day we're rich and the other day everyone's calling us broke, and then one day everyone loves us and the other day everyone fucking hates us.
So I don't know. I thought that was kind of an interesting part of the whole storyline, right? Is like, that contributed further to why I thought, they're kind of the modern ideal of the American dream was the angle that led them to this fame in the first place. So when you're looking at the house video, right, Catherine is saying things like, we had an occupant contract, or we couldn't get the paperwork to be occupants, we weren't allowed to live in our own home. But what's interesting is, she never says why that got set up like that in the first place, besides attempting to blame it on, like, an incompetent builder. Well, the thing is, if I get a loan for a restaurant, I'm not supposed to be able to live in the restaurant, right, under the circumstances of that loan, but I can build it to look like a house in theory if I wanted to, but under no circumstance am I supposed to live there under the guise of that loan, which is why these loans are also a lot shorter of a time frame, because it was kind of confusing when she claimed that it was only a 16-month loan or something along those lines, because mortgages are, like, upwards of 30 years or 20 years, let's say, to be generous, upwards of 20 years. So then what did it mean that she had a mortgage that was only, not even 2 years?
My house, fuck it, I'll just pay it, and then it's gonna last for 18 months, right? So the loan was 18 months. When you get a loan, usually it's like 30 years, but because ours was a jumbo loan, it was 18 months, and then we're supposed to get another loan, right? So when the loan ends, you're supposed to get a new loan, but you cannot get a new loan unless you have the certificate of occupancy.
Because even when you're really rich, what a lot of people do is they get regular mortgages, they just put a bigger down payment on, they pay less per month. Because there's, like, I don't even know if you can have less than 5 years. I don't know, though, because, girl, I don't have money. I don't have mortgage credit, so obviously I'm not the best person to ask about that, but already that was fishy, because that does sound like the structure of a business loan, right? Because when you build a business, you will then earn revenue from the business, and from there you can make the money back and pay back the loan. That's kind of how that works. That's, like, the whole point. So from there, there's a video by Le Fleur which Ethan Klein pronounced Fleur. I just thought it was funny. There's a video by Le Fleur that goes through and has like all the different alleged receipts about their home, the type of loan they got, and all these kinds of things. And while Catherine tries to complain about the certification and all that kind of stuff, and apparently these things are public record, you're not going to get an occupancy certificate for a business loan for a business property, because they could. The thing is, because you're not supposed to, even if you're a content creator, you're not supposed to be able to write off your house. That's kind of like the whole point of that separation between occupancy and business setup structure, right? So no matter what issues come in hand, they're always together. They're always facing the haters together. They have that kind of till death do us part kind of aspect of life that a lot of people say doesn't exist anymore. They are the best representation of why maybe this till death do us part idea kind of fizzled out in the first place. Because they're together through fraud allegations, abuse allegations, infidelity allegations, and overall just don't look like they're very suited to each other. And if you look back at that video of Austin yelling about his hair, he's being very aggressive towards his wife, girlfriend, something, whatever. So that kind of in itself, maybe it's not a good idea that you stay together. Like, that's kind of the premise of that whole thing. And they definitely have that kind of dollhouse family life where it all looks perfect, and then you hear that their house is being foreclosed on because they couldn't make that loan, that 16-month mortgage. Because if you had a loan for $10 million, the payments per month will obviously be exponentially higher if they're supposed to be paid off in 16 months versus 30 years. And regardless of also going to be differences in, interest and all those kinds of things. And I think what it is was they thought they could do write-offs and cut costs, which famously they've done before in the ways that they have tried to take money back from charity events and the cheap kind of scams that they've tried to pull off. And scam, Catherine, yes. Yes, and people prove it literally all the time. And you never, maybe people wouldn't be saying scam if you made one thing that actually worked out. And the fact that they have these two beautiful people that ended up being able to have a family with good economic prowess and substantial representation, and then they were able to move forward, and then through all of these issues, the houses, the people coming for them, the events, they did it all together. That's that kind of idealized family model of kind of this blown up modern nuclear family where the parents get to be with them all the time because they're influencers. They don't have to go for that 9 to 5 and abandon their kids at the daycare. And I'm not saying when you bring a kid to daycare, you're abandoning them. I'm just dramatizing the idea for you, which is what a lot of let's say multi-level marketing companies try to sell as well. So in turn, I believe that this all contributed to why they're successful in the way that they are now. And it's kind of taking that devolving of those ideals to show what they're really like, and in turn might lead to their decline in fame. So in conclusion, maybe they're getting what they deserve. Because, you take advantage of people and you scam and you lie and you cheat your way through everything down to even the place that you were living and the way you were housing your kids, allegedly washing them in ice cold water, which I feel like you might have not wanted to admit that with your chest that hard, but anyways. So yeah, that's all I have to say. I wanted to try to make a video separate from the family channel dynamic of the kids, because I think it goes beyond the kids and the issues with them. I think it goes to a fundamental push of this kind of toxic ideology that is present in especially North American and Western society. And yeah, Squish Gang is still there. I just needed this mirror. I hope I don't fail my evaluations, and you guys have a really good day. Bye.
I know I said I was sick of you bitches calling me Napoleon Dynamite and Linguini from Ratatouille, but out of all the new people you could have chosen, you chose Carnival Barker from Despicable Me, bitch! I'm not even ginger!